City of Stevens Point Finance Committee meeting, recorded May 13, 2024.
Okay, it's 7:13. We'll call the meeting to the Finance Committee to order. A roll call, please.
Christensen.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
Broderick. Here. Shuda.
Here.
Kamer. Here.
All right. We definitely have a quorum. Our second item is the designation of an official newspaper for city publications.
Yes, so we received one bid from the Stevens Point Gazette, and the increase from last year ranges from 3.8 to 5.4%.
So what would your recommendation be?
The recommendation would be to approve since we only got
Since you only got one.
one bid.
Okay.
Alder Morrow, so moved.
Alder
Let's
Morrow
move.
moves approval. Is there a second? Second by Alder Shuda. Any comments? Mine only would be, it'd be nice if we'd get more than one bid on things, but
It would.
the state statutes are also pretty restrictive as far as who qualifies an official, as an official newspaper, so. All right, the motion is on the floor and has been moved and seconded. All in favor would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. That passes unanimously. Item number 2, consideration of a claim that Lindsey Johnson struck in the head with a hockey puck at Willett Arena. Any information on that? We do have a letter in our packet.
Yes, so basically, it's pretty self-explanatory. The claimant was struck in the head with a hockey puck and is looking for reimbursement for her out-of-pocket expenses from her, for whatever the insurance company didn't cover. We did submit it to our insurance company, as we always do with liability claims. They reviewed it. They found that it does fall under recreational immunity. So basically, any time that there's an incident in one of our parks, one of our recreational facilities, one of the major statutes at play is known as recreational immunity, provides the city with immunity from liability related to recreational activities. So it did determine that being a spectator is part of a recreational activity, so therefore falls under the immunity statute. So therefore, the recommendation is to deny.
What's the committee's wishes?
Move to, yeah.
Alder Broderick with a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Or deny.
To
To deny,
To deny
yeah,
the claim.
to accept the staff recommendation to not deny the claim.
I also
Second by Alder Morrow. All in favor of denial of the claim?
Should we ask, we need to ask if the claimant's here.
We don't have to, well, is the claimant available? Who would like to speak? Anyone from the public?
Okay.
Hearing none. All in favor of the denial of the claim signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. Claim is denied. Item number 4, approval of the modification of the annual transfer amount from the general fund to the capital projects fund. Corey?
Yes, so annually, we do make a transfer from the general fund, which accounts for most of the financial activities of the city, to the capital projects fund, and the reason for that transfer is that typically we have some money left over at the end of the year with either expenditures coming in under budget or revenues coming in over what was budgeted. We were pretty aggressive in how we budgeted this transfer for the 2024 budget cycle. We budgeted $1,491,400 and completed our audit field work reconciling the entire year back in April, and we're looking at a little bit of a drop in fund balance. It's not an extreme drop, but drop from $12,982,000 to $12,400,000, so a drop of almost $600,000. So looking to mitigate that a little bit, just because it is a good practice to keep a stable fund balance. Your fund balance really should be stable or growing. So luckily, we do have some unspent capital project funds from 2023. which means that we're not, we really don't have to make this large of a transfer in order to fund our capital projects for 2024. So basically what my recommendation would be is that we use those unspent capital project funds from 2023 to reduce that transfer from the $12,491,400 down to $923,400, which basically will mostly take care of that issue in terms of the drop in unassigned fund balance.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Motion, so moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Morrow. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Kiemer. Stable fund balance is one of the things that's taken into consideration when they do such things as issue bonds and those types of things.
It is, yes. And
So it's in our best interest to try to keep a stable. Excellent.
Yep, correct.
All right. Anyone, any comments from the committee? Questions? Anyone from the public? Hearing none, all in favor of the transfer of modifying the annual transfer amount from the general fund to the capital projects fund would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. Item number 5, a request from the City of Stevens Point to sell property at 4213 Simona Street. Director Kronosky, would you like to give us some background on this, please?
Thank you, Finance Committee. So before you is a request really from jointly the Community Development Department and the Public Utilities Department. As folks might recall, we acquired 4213 Simona Street and the adjacent vacant parcel for the purposes of constructing a new municipal wellhead. A condition of buying the vacant lot, which was owned by the owner of the Simona Street property, was that we bought both. And so we did end up listing the property with a local realtor. We did receive 5 offers. After reviewing it with Dr. Lemke and Mayor Wiesa, we have signed on behalf of the city offer number 2, which was for $20,000 over our asking price in all cash. So we believe it's the highest and best offer. Would recommend accepting that proposal and authorizing staff to execute the sale of the property.
Okay. Thank you, Director. What's the committee's wishes?
So moved.
Moved by Alder Morrow to
Sell.
sell that property on Simona, 4213 Simona Street. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Kiemer. Any questions, any comments? I think it is important to note that we did not take a loss on that property. I know there were some concerns on that previously, and we obviously did fine on that, so duly noted, and job well done, Director. All in favor of approving that sale signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. Our next item, again, we get to listen to Director Kronosky on the awarding of the bid for the raising of 1200 Main Street.
We get to listen.
Privilege.
We have the opportunity.
The privilege of listening to. So as part of the redevelopment plans for the Shopko Superblock downtown, city staff did issue the request for proposals for raising of that structure. We received 10 bids with a apparent low bid from Best Enterprises out of De Pere, Wisconsin. We did walk through the building with them, I believe twice, and so they're well aware of what was needing to be done. I feel confident that they're going to be able to complete the work within the proposed raising contract. So staff's recommendation is to authorize city staff to execute a contract on your behalf with Best Enterprises.
Would you remind us of the tentative, of the proposed timeframe?
I think that's a little bit up in the air. There's discussion whether or not we do it before 4th of July, if we wait until after the activities of Riverfront and the 4th of July parade occur. But there's going to be demolition and crushing on site, so a fair amount of dust will be present during that time. My best guess, it's going to take about 6 to 8 weeks to complete. So it's a very long process because the building is all concrete with steel, and then there is a mezzanine that encompasses about a third of the building in the front part that is all poured spancrete. So it is a little bit more intense than I think folks who are just familiar with the retail component are aware of. So,
All right. Committee, once again, what are your wishes?
So move the accept.
Moved by
bid.
Alder Shuda to accept the bid for the demolition. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Broderick. Comments?
I do have a question. There was quite a bit of material about the pre-demolition assessment for contaminants. I just was wondering if the abatement had already been done, or if there's an RFP for that, or how that whole process works.
So there is a small amount of asbestos within the Shopko building. Obviously, anything really built in the late 70s, early 80s, we were kind of out of the asbestos era, thankfully. So essentially, if any of the concrete that has asbestos-containing material is being recycled, that does require abatement. If it is just going to a landfill, there is no abatement required. And because there was a small amount, we did advise the applicants that if you intended to recycle the concrete, come to us with an asbestos abatement proposal as well. And so that's included in these proposals. So very good question.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, vote would be in order. Oh, we have a member of the public. No, absolutely. Come on up. Please identify yourself for the public.
Jackie Guthrie, Alder District 2, 2700 Peck Street. I had a constituent contact me about the cost of demolishing the Shopko and voice concern about the cost borne by the city for what is described as redevelopment that will be the burden of whoever builds new buildings in this redevelopment plan. I wonder if you can speak to, just broad back of the envelope, cost of the city to redevelop this space, including, I would imagine, streets and sewers and demoing this building, compared to what will be borne by private folks who want to redevelop and build retail space or apartment buildings for rent or things like that. Could you speak to that for us?
I'm a little fearful it's outside the scope of the request before you, but I will just reiterate that we did acquire the building for, I believe, $1.2 million. It's expected, you've got just about $250,000 additional in raising costs, and we do intend to, as part of the first phase of the redevelopment of the Shopko site, put the Union Street extension through to, the Strong's extension through to Union, likely in 2025, and some of the underground utility work. In general, I don't want to get into too many specifics, but while the TIF district will take on the financial burden, that money will be paid back via increment that's generated because of redevelopment efforts through private parties. So when we do have projects that will occur on that site or within TIF district number 10, we'll be certain to negotiate deals that make sure the city's TIF district is in the green as opposed to being in the red. TIF 10 right now is in a really precarious financial state because there's not been a lot of new increment generated because of deals with like Northside Yard where they're receiving 100% of their increment. So just being cognizant of that as we move forward.
And the only other thing, if I can add to that too, is, and I noted this in my notes for the committee, that we'll likely have to do a transfer toward the end of the year from TIF 5 to TIF District 10 to cover this expense, just because TIF 10 right now, as of right now, doesn't have the money on hand to fund this. So, which is the same thing that we did with the acquisition of the Shopko building as well. We transferred some money from TIF 5, which is the north side TIF district, which is in a much better financial position than TIF 10, the downtown TIF is.
And I will say, it's not super uncommon for TIF districts in their infancy, like TIF 10, to run in the negative, per se, for the first several years of their lifespan, because you have to make big investments typically up front, especially in redevelopment projects like this, and that long-term, that money will come back through new increment generated, so.
So eventually, it's not an expense, but an investment.
Correct.
Okay. Any other speakers? Any questions? If not, a vote would be in order. All in favor of approval of accepting that bid would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed would be no. Item number 7 on our agenda is the authorization of professional services for improvements in the East Park Commerce Center. Director Badoon.
Good evening.
I tried to put everything together in the memo. Hopefully I kept others concise. Just a little bit of background as I identified there. This is the general approach we've been working with East Park Commerce Center. So this is ultimately would be the third request, had being the initial RFP that we put out in 2018 when we hired Rupert Milkey. I forget exactly when we reauthorized funds towards that. Wasn't that long ago. Surprisingly, just like everything else, the cost of professional services have also gone up. So we're just looking to come back to get another reauthorization for that. To put it in context of what I have there, I have a list of potential projects, and I just want to clarify that. I mean, these are all just potential things. None of this stuff is, really ready to go. We're not looking to, necessarily do all these. We probably won't under what we're looking for authorization. But just as they come up, oftentimes it's quick. We might need just like that preliminary engineering before we even get into to bring an idea back, to the council or something like that. So it's nice that we can react quickly to these things and have that vehicle for us. In context, this request is a little bit higher than where we've been the previous two times. Previously, we've been around like 300,000, 350. I believe the first one, 275 was the last one. So this one, however, one of the things that we do want to execute right away is a task order for some construction observation. With all the work we have going on this year, we're always getting run, thin on staff to be able to oversee everything. So approximately 130,000, 135,000 of that is estimated could go to that. We'll try to balance that and keep it down because we'll be paying as a, time and materials for their services to observe that during construction this summer. So our plan is hopefully to keep it under that, but just looking at that, if you take that off, there's about $350,000 remaining to do some of those other things that check off as they might come in.
Yeah, I would just say, community development is the problem why we have so many projects with Badger Avenue and the Forest Creek subdivision project. So I apologize to Director Badoon and his staff. But yeah, in general, the general philosophy of East Park Commerce Center has not been the field of dreams. We don't build it and they will come. It's been very deliberate in how we've expanded our roadways and our utility extensions, and now with the planned rail spur and siding tracks. So very deliberate, done strategically as projects occur. I think that's a really good way of us developing East Park Commerce Center as that project moves forward. There is this general master plan, but we've deviated already from some in the last decade since the creation of East Park Commerce Center. But it is really important for us to be nimble, to work with a contracted engineer, so as projects come up, we can get information out and we're not delayed by the bureaucratic process that is committees. And so having this pre-authorization is really important to keeping developers happy and moving projects forward. So
I know in the memo it was described kind of as an a la carte type of approach, and I think that's very appropriate. It's nice to be able to fit the project to exactly what you need, and so you don't have to all of a sudden have planning taking place for things that might not be. We're only paying for the things that we do need when we need them, and so I think that's a very thoughtful approach. So, committee, what are your wishes?
I would move approval.
Approval moved by Alder Keemer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Morrow. Comments, questions from the committee?
Anything that we could do to help speed things up a little bit through the committee process.
Yeah,
We try our hardest.
The undue delay that we provide, I know it's hurtful.
we appreciate it.
So do we. Any other comments? All right. Hearing none, a motion, the vote would be in order for the authorization of the professional services for the improvements in the East Park Commerce Center. All in favor of that authorization would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed would be no. And that passes unanimously. That brings us to the approval of claims paid, which still boggles my mind that we have to approve things that have already happened. But let's do it.
Yes, so a couple of big expenses just with a couple of capital projects, and then also we did receive our lottery credit from the state. So you see the lottery credit on your tax bill, the state gives us money for that. And then we also forward that to the school district and Portage County for their respective shares of that lottery credit that you see on your tax bill.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members that they may have for our comptroller treasurer on the claims paid? Anything catch your eye?
I guess I do have a question. The first item of that page talks about a return of 2023 unspent EMS funds, and I guess, yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah, happy to answer that question. So we get an annual amount from the county for providing countywide EMS service, and basically anything that is not spent during that year, we return to the county. We basically say, okay, you gave us this much money, we didn't use it all, so here's what's remaining, and then it goes back to the county, and they're supposed to use it for improving the overall EMS system. So, yeah, certainly that's significant that, we came in $118,000 under that contract amount. So certainly, it's too bad nobody from the fire department is here, but props to the fire department for keeping those costs down for the Portage County taxpayers.
While providing outstanding service.
Yes.
That's a great combination. Good question, though. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, then we will, is there a motion to approve the claims paid?
So moved.
Moved by Alder Morrow. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Alder Broderick. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed would be no. Claims have been approved. We will now be adjourning into closed session pursuant to State Statute 19.85, parent 1, parent E, for the deliberating and negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session on the following. There's a negotiation of a development agreement for a project 1800 Maria Drive, and B, a negotiation of a development agreement amendment for the property at 1011 2nd Street. We will be reconvening for possible action after that above referenced closed session, and we will be adjourning then, I guess, in open session.
Okay, and I guess you see Director Konoski was shaking his head no, so that we don't need to go into, it is on the agenda to go into open session.
Yes.
That's kind of standard language that we put on,
Okay.
just in case.
Just in case
we need
have-
to, but, but in this case, we won't need to go back into
Okay.
open session. So,
All right, so then we will be, just so the public knows, we will be adjourning in closed session, so then Seth doesn't have to hang around.
yeah, correct.
That's going to make him sad, I know. Aw, dang. All right, so we need a roll call to go into closed session, right?
Don't we need a motion first?
Motion to go into closed session, yep.
I'm making a motion to go in a closed
Motion
session.
by Alder Morrow. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Kiemer. Roll call.
Christensen.
Yes.
Morrow.
Aye.
Judah.
Aye.
Broderick.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.